Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Monday, February 3rd. I want to just get right into this. The introduction I did to my last video about the Luka Doncic trade. These are like part one and part two of a longer video. Some of this stuff, right, that ties in together. You know, I had this whole spiritual gathering, then the Luka Doncic trade, and then this stuff with Trump, and I'm going to show you a little bit of Trudeau's what he said about it, right? And you know, this is completely effed in a variety of ways, and this is far more far-reaching than just the tariffs. Let's watch Trump. Look at him walking down the stairs here. Look at him go. Like he's like, you know, so much better at Biden than doing that. I think is a salute. Yeah, I gotta go over here. I gotta talk to these motherfuckers. Let me about mother F. And so coming in here. There he goes. Hey, how are you guys?
Thank you very much. So, we had a very busy weekend. We got the 6 hostages out of Venezuela, as you probably know.
I didn't know that, but I did when I watched this the first time. So, like, big news from Venezuela.
And they're very safe right now. They're home with...
Okay, some kind of glitch here. I'm having some kind of technical difficulties. But this is a far-reaching bunch of stuff that's happened. From the world to Trump. I have no idea why my internet has gone out here. As soon as I stop this thing, it'll come back on.
Their families. And we appreciate the hard work of a lot of people, including Rick...
He's going full fish boy here.
Grinnell. We appreciate the cooperation from Venezuela.
Right there. There he goes. Fish boy.
And we have some very
Fish
happy
boy.
people right now. Nobody thought that was going to happen. So they are home, they're safe, and they're with their families. That was a big one. Secretary of State Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're talking about the Panama Canal. What they've done is terrible. They violated the agreement. They're not allowed to violate the agreement. China's running the Panama Canal. That was not given to China. That was given to Panama foolishly. But
Foolishly.
they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it back, or something very powerful is going to happen. And
yeah, fuck Panama.
as far as other things are concerned, as you know, we had a very busy weekend. We're dealing with Israel. We're dealing with Ukraine and Russia.
So think about all these things he's saying here, right? The Panama Canal is very important to U.S. goods, us getting the things that we need being shipped in. I mean, you know, they used to have to go around South America. And so everything that was shipped into the West Coast or coming to the East Coast from the West used to have to go all the way around the, go down around South America, right? Because there's no, there's land from Canada all the way down to, the very tippy top of Canada, Alaska, then all the way down to the end of, Argentina at the bottom. And so, the Panama Canal was huge. It was a big thing. And, shipping costs would go way up if it's not being used. The war with Israel is epic. There's all these signs up, billboards now about how anything anti-Semitism is pro-American, or it's patriotic to be against anti-Semitism. This ad campaign, right? There's this whole thing, and all the stuff to do with Israel, and all the stuff, the Middle East, and then this thing with Russia and the Ukraine. These are big things. They're all, all this stuff is happening right now, but nobody cares about that shit because they want to hear about tariffs, right?
We have meetings and talks scheduled with various parties, including Ukraine and Russia. And I think those discussions are actually going pretty well. The discussions on the Middle East with Israel and various and sundry other countries are progressing. Bibi Netanyahu's coming on Tuesday, and I think we have some very big meetings scheduled.
Mr. President, do you feel that Elon Musk is delivering on his promises to you? Do you feel he's doing a good job right now with
I do. I think Elon's doing a good job. He's a big cost cutter.
Big cost cutter.
Sometimes we won't agree with it, and we'll not go where he wants to go. But I think he's doing a great job. He's a smart guy, very smart, and he's very much into cutting the budget of our federal government.
Mr. President.
He saw some retaliatory tariffs from Canada.
Say it?
He saw some retaliatory tariffs from Canada. There was a rider in the order. Are you planning to increase the tariffs against Canada?
Well, it could happen. If they do anything, we will. Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years.
So, he's calling Canada abusive. I don't think anybody would call Canada abusive other than native peoples, right? I don't know what kind of slavery issues they had there, but Canadians are considered much nicer and less aggressive than Americans. Of course, hockey and those things, but abusive, right? That Canada is bullying America. See, Trump's a big bully, right? He's saying that Canada has been bullying America, and that's not the case. Canada depends on America, and to what extent Russia does. Like, we're the rich people, we're the rich country that both our neighbors depend on, right?
They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them to go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it.
We don't get anything out of Canada. Fuck Canada. Fuck Panama. Fuck.
The people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there. But if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want. Mexico, we've had very good talks with them. And this is retaliatory. This is retaliatory to a certain extent. Millions of people flowed into our country through Mexico and Canada, and we're not going to allow that. And by the way, we have among the lowest numbers we've ever had of people crossing our border, the lowest numbers since...
Okay, so what this is about is Canada is posing retaliatory tariffs, and I'll show you that in a second. And Trump heard that, he's like, all right, fuck you guys, I'm going to make the tariffs even worse. So, like, he's not going to back down. Like, this is Trump. We'll get into this about Trump in a second, right?
They will be
Here, let's start.
They will be imposing 25% tariffs on Canadian exports to the United States and 10% on Canadian energy. A decision that, should they elect to proceed with, should take effect on Tuesday, February 4th.
Tomorrow.
Cette décision met en péril une relation économique.
Shit. All right, so I'm going to have to switch to another one. I know he's going to do bilingual shit here. I decided to get it from a Canada news channel, and I didn't realize they were going to go all bilingual on me.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
Boom. His voice and his mannerisms. A lot of people think he's Castro's son. The whole thing with his mom and Fidel Castro, I don't know. But he's so unlikable, just everything about him when I hear him talk.
This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Our response will...
So that's because they have to import all this stuff. It's going to cost them a lot more money. They're screwed. Like, he doesn't want to admit it, but they're screwed by Trump. And I don't think this is a good plan by Trump. This whole thing with Trump I'll get into in a bit, right? But Trump is bullying these countries, and this isn't going to work out every time, right? Like, it's only going to work out so much. I mean, the Panama thing is just a new thing, a Trump-created problem. And maybe it's a real problem for the U.S., but it's not something we should be taking on right now because things are falling apart. But Trump doesn't give a shit, right? And so Canada is dependent on a lot of American goods because it's a smaller country that has a much longer winter, agriculture and things like this particularly. And so now they're going to have to deal with some other countries, and they're not going to be able to replace some of these things. If they do, it's going to be at a very high price.
Will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes.
Shoes, lollipops and raisins, and shoelaces, and flip-flops, and grass seed, and pumpkins, and did I say raisins? What are you doing, bro?
It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment.
Okay, so where are you going to get those things? Like, if you don't have Canadian companies that are making these things, you can import them from China and shit like that, but that's, I mean, hardly a replacement, right? And so, and I don't know. Like, I mean, the Canadian thing, this is a nightmare for Canadians, but it's also a nightmare for Americans, right?
And materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more. And as part of our response, we are considering, with the provinces and territories, several non-tariff measures, including some relating to critical minerals, energy, procurement, and other partnerships. We will stand strong for Canada.
Strong for Canada. I don't think the Canadian people are going to be into that.
We will stand strong to ensure our countries continue to be the best neighbors in the world. I want to speak directly to Americans, our closest friends and neighbors. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you.
Okay, so I don't know all about the tariffs, but to my understanding, some of the tariffs are going to be paid on this side. Some of the Canadian tariffs that Trump has installed are not going to be paid by the Canadians. It's going to be paid by the people who are buying Canadian goods. So the grocery stores or whoever is buying Canadian goods. And so that's going to raise your prices based in that, right? It's going to add things to your prices, to your Canadian, anything you're getting from Canada. And then Mexico and these other countries, Mexico particularly, a lot of agriculture comes from there, especially in winter months. And there's a lot of things going on. My wife was just telling me that some guy has like he buys from Walmart, and he has a record of his basket, his grocery basket, right, from getting stuff that he gets from Walmart. And he paid like $160 for something, a basket in 2020, and it cost $469 or something like that, more than doubled now, because inflation's a lot worse than they're letting on. So in terms of any legitimacy to Trump's election, whether it was, he won it organically or whatever was going on, the reason the American people voted for him was inflation. It was the economy. It was the fact they were paying so much for groceries. Like, that was one thing that they addressed initially. Kamala Harris did, and Joe Biden tried to do it in the first debate. And they tried to address it by saying American corporations were price gouging, and they were going to deal with that. But they weren't going to deal with it until after they got elected. And so they weren't willing to admit that there was inflation, and they had something to do with it, right? But Trump had as much to do with inflation as Joe Biden, because he took out all those COVID bailouts. And the reason people elected Trump is they expected that prices would come down. And that's what Trump promised them. But Trump is now saying something different, because prices are not going to come down once these tariffs are imposed. Prices are going to go up, and things are going to disappear. And when that happens, people are going to turn on Trump almost immediately. Like, this whole golden age thing is over. Trump didn't run on tariffs. He ran as tariffs as a way to bring back America's golden age. And if Americans don't see that within a short period of time, is going to be like, fuck you, Trump, by everybody but the hardcore Trumpers.
My administration.
Mr. President, you said so on Truth Social. You said that you were going to cut aid from South Africa. Will you plan to cut aid across other African nations, and why South Africa?
No, it's only South Africa. Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
And on the Fed Chair Jerome Powell, he held rates. What's your reaction to him not changing the rates?
What did you say?
Fed Chair Jerome Powell, the Fed meeting was this week. He held the rates. He didn't cut them.
No, I'm not surprised. I think holding the rates at this point was the right thing to do.
Mr. President, which country will be next on tariffs? Would you consider taxing the UK, for example?
Well, we're going to see what happens. It'll happen. But we're going to...
I'm going to tariff the shit out of every country. Like, just get ready. I'm tariffing you.
We'll see how things work out. It might happen with them, but it will definitely happen with the European Union. I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us. And, you know, we have over a $300 billion deficit. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They take almost nothing. And we take everything from them. Millions of cars, tremendous amounts of food and farm products. So the UK is way out of line, and we'll see the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union it's an atrocity, what they've done.
Prime Minister Starmer wants a closer relationship with the EU.
Well, Prime Minister Starmer has been very nice. We've had a couple of meetings.
So I don't know if it's going to be here. Trump says something about it's going to cause Americans pain. Hopefully it'll be here. We're going to keep on listening to this. If not, I'll find that. But, you know, this is, again, Trump doesn't have a mandate for tariffs. Most people don't know what tariffs are and how that it'll affect them. How will tariffs affect me? And the bottom line is tariffs can only inevitably lead to either things not being available or things being more expensive. When there are tariffs on foreign goods, again, unless you can replace them with American manufactured items that can be sold cheaper, but things that we don't make or things that we don't grow in the winter, you know, lots of our produce, things like that. American produce is more expensive because there's more. It's you know, the things are more expensive to make in America, and so prices are going to go up, and they're already fucking high as shit, right?
Meetings, we've had numerous phone calls. We're getting along very well, and we'll see whether or not we can balance out our budget. With the European Union, it's $350 billion deficit. So obviously something's going to take place there.
For the European Union, what's the timeline? And are you thinking
Where?
along
Where?
the line 25%?
With
10%?
who? With who?
The EU, how much?
You know, you can actually go into a fucking room without airplane engines and shit. Like, they do this all the time. It's the worst audio, and it's usually done purposefully. But, you know, he's answering these questions. You could invite the people into a plane, right? Like, you could just do a press fucking conference.
I wouldn't say there's a timeline, but it's going to be pretty soon. No, I'm not concerned. We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that.
Yeah, so we don't understand it, right? People can't experience any more pain. Like, you ran on the fact that prices were astronomical. You talked about, you hammered Biden on it. And this isn't a little pain. I mean, unless, you know, see, Trump's a bully. And he is somebody who feels like, for whatever legitimacy, whether he's doing this because he's scripted to do it or his character, like, this is the character of Trump and who I think he actually is. He feels that he was targeted because we whined about being targeted for 4 years after the Biden thing. He whined about how he was screwed over by the election. And all these institutions, he's taken a sledgehammer to. Anything that's anti-Trump, anything that isn't pro-Trump, any federal employee that isn't a pro-Trump person, He's trying to get rid of all these federal employees, some of them doing critical jobs, replacing them with possibly incompetent people, all on the guise that he's some business genius who, had to go bankrupt 6 times and started his business with money he got from his dad and a lot of lucky breaks, and he still ran his business into the ground multiple times. He makes impulsive decisions. He's not thoughtful. He doesn't do research. He uses people. And people think, well, he's going to be my bully. Trump wrote this book about called The Art of the Deal. And he loves winning deals. If you ever saw The Apprentice show, he thinks of himself as a great negotiator. And he prides himself on winning a negotiation. But oftentimes the negotiation, he was in an unfair advantage, like a vendor, like a person that owns a family business that sells Trump Tower something, some sort of merch or whatever, whatever a vendor sells them. And he would stop paying them, and he would say, all right, I have a bigger law firm than you, so cut what I'm paying you in half. And the person would end up losing money. I was told this by a barber, a very Republican pro-Trump barber, who said the Trump Tower was known for this, that they wouldn't pay their vendors properly. He'd screw everyday people just so he could say he won the negotiation, right? And a lot of his, like they said in The Apprentice, when they went into his offices, they were a mess. They were dirty. Like, he's cheap, and like people said he's one of the cheapest people, Chris Christie and these people, right? He likes winning things. He likes getting over on people. He likes getting free stuff. He expects somebody who has a lot less money than him to pick up the tab and all these things, because he's a selfish prick. And, you think that he's going to be your selfish prick or your bully. He's not. He just loves America. He loves you so much. He's going to win for America. And maybe he cares a little bit about his legacy. But right now, it just looks like he's being vindictive. And he's just going all in and turning everything upside down. And America is so unstable. Our economy is fucked, and everything about our culture and the people themselves. And there's so much division. America can't suffer, any kind of big-term changes, especially when people are freaking out about the cost of things. And this is going to be a little bit of pain, you mean for a couple of weeks? Or is it going to be a year? Or is it going to be 6 months or, whatever? Like, how much pain? Like, how long before this thing gets resolved with Canada? And how long before people are like, all the countries band together and are like, fuck you to Trump? Like, if he pisses off Europe, who's our big ally, and China cultivates relationships with all these people, and there's like this like sort of anti-American energy out there and anti-Trump stuff. And so, Trump isn't a successful person. He's great at selling himself. But he isn't good at governing. He isn't good administrator. He isn't a good boss. He isn't a good person to be in business with. He's not a good partner. He cheats on his wives. He screws people over. He's selfish. And he, poses like he cares about people, but he doesn't. And so this is, what Trump's, he just dropped all these bombshells in this, big things are happening. And these tariffs, it might be an effective bullying tool, and Trump might just get something out of them and call it a win and repeal them. But it seems like he's going to do this across the board and see how it works out while he's trying to acquire Greenland and while he's trying to acquire the Panama Canal, rename the Gulf of Mexico. And then there's the immigration issue where there's lots of people who are here that are doing work that American people aren't going to do. And if American people do those jobs, prices are going to go up. And so by removing all these immigrants, and I don't know how many are being removed, and maybe it's just a lot of like bullshit that he's pitching to people. But by removing these people, especially the ones doing agricultural work and picking fruits and vegetables and adding tariffs to these countries, and so the prices go up, you could see prices going up like by 4 times and empty grocery stores and things that's not going to be there that are normally there. And then, what do you do, right? And then people turn on Trump, and the next thing you know, like, they've lost faith in him. And then there's the whole thing with everything that goes along with that, right? The toppling of the American government and just the loss of confidence and just a complete freak out. And how does Trump deal with all that shit, right? Martial law or whatever he's going to do. And so, like, this is just a nightmare waiting to unfold. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he's just bluffing, because sometimes he bluffs, but, we don't know how far he's willing to go with this shit. Because with this guy, you never know. Okay, went for a nice walk into my cold bath, and I have a voiceover to insert. It's like 60 degrees outside. It's been, that's like it's been in its 30s and 20s and, at best 40s. But we're having a little reprieve. It gets cold again tomorrow. But anyways, YouTube recommended this to me.
Hey,
Would you send troops to take the Canal of Panama?
about what?
Panama, the Canal of Panama. Would you send US troops?
I don't think troops will be necessary in Panama. What Panama has done is terrible for national security for this part of the world. And 70% of the signage on the Panama Canal was written in Chinese. That's not right. So it wasn't meant for China. It should have never been made. The deal was a ridiculous deal. We lost 38,000 people building the Panama Canal, one of the great wonders of the world. 38, think of it, 38. It was the most
You
expensive
care so much about those people, Trump.
project ever built by this country, if you take it forward. The most expensive project ever built. We lost 38,000. And what happens? China owns it all of a sudden? It's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. We have national security concerns, and they wouldn't let it happen either.
Mr. President, what
Okay, so no troops. But that's what we're just so close to World War III, and Trump's oblivious. Trump just thinks he's going to bully and do these things. He's going to go full Trump, and he doesn't care. Like, he's playing with house money. He's not going to be alive in 10 years. I mean, this is his last big hurrah. And he's just going full Trump, and it's just all Trump loyalists around him, and he's not listening to anybody else. He's not, anybody who would disagree with him is going to get fired and kicked out, and he's just going to, wrap himself in an insulated bubble of Trumpers and people who buy into his bullshit, and then, whatever happens, and he'll not take responsibility for one iota of it when it does, because that's how Trump rolls. Okay, so there's been this spiritual gathering that, it happens every year in February for the First Master's birthday, and I've been covering it, the Gratefullness meditation channel, where a bunch of us are still doing the meditation aside from the Heartfulness debacle, the Heartfulness cult that Dodgy runs. And I've been sort of doing updates and my experiences with the whole thing. And I put a voiceover at the end of my last video, and I thought I'd add this one here because it actually happened. What I'm talking about in the voiceover happened right after I was covering this Trump stuff. And so here's the voiceover. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So this is a little voiceover I'm doing about the final day. Today's Monday, February 3rd. I'm going to do another video tomorrow morning, just in case there's any other things that develop. So this will be the first voiceover of that. And I'm going to include this in the Journey series. I'm still going to put this. I'm in the middle of making a video about Trump and tariffs. And I went to read comments on my Pockets of the Future Facebook, which I don't get to very much. And I read comments on my Instagram messages, not comments, messages. And I read the Instagram ones every day or every other day. And not every day now. Like, it's just, I'm falling out of a little bit of a routine in that. But almost every day, almost like 5-6 days a week. The Facebook Pockets of Future page, I don't get to the messages. On my personal personal Facebook page, I get to messages there. And there's one I want to respond to. I usually don't read personal messages, but this one had to do with a Gratefullness meditation experience. So I was doing that. I was listening to things, and I was, I got a few things I want to cover. I'm in the middle of making a video, and it's 2:40 now, and it seems I lost like 3 hours. Like I did a little bit of the video, and then I just sort of spaced out. And this is what happens at the end of the gathering. Like, I just end up staring at a wall, and like I'm doing things, or I'm kind of doing things, but I'm just not there. I'm just not into it. And then I realized I should meditate, and I meditated, had just the most blissful meditation. The Sajmarg meditation isn't about bliss, it isn't about happiness. It isn't about, what do they call it? Enlightenment. It's none of those things. It's about spiritual evolution. But there are moments of bliss. And the moments of bliss are really important, especially after these gatherings. And the meditations just get a lot better. And there's restlessness in the meditations. There's emotions. There's, sometimes it's just a grind. The meditations. I used to have meditations. I meditated for a full hour every morning. I don't get to do that as much. And 59 minutes would be excruciating and restlessness. Like there are times I start meditating and I'm like, well, that's got to be like half an hour. I look at my watch, it was 1 minute. I'm like, oh, this is going to suck, right? And so it's not like it's just some big pleasure experience, but, just the end of this gathering, and I had this wonderful sitting, that passed through me as a preceptor, and I knew it was a good sitting. And then I just, was inspired to meditate. And, this is the kind of stuff that it's a really a breakthrough for the gratefulness meditation we're doing. Leading up to the gathering, I've been going through a personal thing that's just a real bummer. That's family related, and my wife has some stuff going on with a loss of a loved one, a parent who's in the death process, and so there's just stuff going on for us, and then I just was getting headaches and felt like shit at the beginning of the gathering, and I talked about this, and I was wondering whether just the whole thing was working or not. And then last night was incredible sitting. And this morning was an incredible sitting. And then I just meditated, had a wonderful meditation. And it's one of the great things about the Sajmark system that, there are these moments of just deep connection to the divine. And, when meditation is pleasurable. Meditation, shouldn't always be pleasurable. But it needs to be sometimes very pleasurable. And after a gathering, it might be just this state that you get into in a spiritual condition where for weeks the meditations are just bliss. I'm feeling a lot of vibrations in the central region, which is the furthest point in the spiritual evolution. I've been feeling that for a while, which I feel like it's a, positive thing. And, all this stuff. So just wanted to say that, this blissful thing that I'm experiencing. And then I got a message from somebody. I got to find it here. See where it is. It was one of these Facebook messages. And, oh yeah, here. And the person writes, and I usually don't read personal things, but I think this would be something I can respond to here. And hi, Paul. I've been listening to your YouTube videos at night before bed, and I started getting interested in the gratefulness meditation you talk about. The other night, I put one of your transmissions, and I thought I would try and meditate upon my connection with God. I found it got really emotional, like sad, and I started crying. I wanted to ask if this could be some of that cleansing you mentioned in your gratefulness meditation videos. I've listened to the few of the series, but not quite clear if this is something that I need to work through before I can meditate properly in the system. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. Thanks. And I wrote, yeah, that's cleaning. That's what they call cleaning. It's not like, what you experience is bad. Like whatever you experience is what you experience in the meditation. And, it's obviously if this person wasn't crying beforehand, and you start to meditate, well, that had something to do with you crying, right? And so grief or sadness is coming up. When I got back to America, I was like dating this woman. We sort of connected before I came back to America, and she was helpful in getting me and my family back here. Like I sent her money and she got us an apartment and things like this, right? And it was, it was not a relationship that was, it wasn't like a good match in different ways. But I wanted her to experience the meditation that I was doing. And Kamlesh Daji came to America. And it was when, he was already starting to fuck up the system. He was already corrupting the system, but I didn't know anything about that. But I had seen some stuff already. But it's still, the energy was still there. And he came to America in L.A. And we were driving there. And she had never done the meditation before. And she just starts crying. And she goes, what's happening? Like, I don't even know. I just was overwhelmed by sadness. No reason. Like, she didn't have a thought of something that made her sad. And I said, well, that's just what happens at these gatherings. And often for women, it's sadness or, maybe not so much. Sometimes they're driven to tears, women, for their love of God. Men as well, but women, it's more often something like that. And sometimes grief comes up, sometimes anger, sometimes fear. Oftentimes I would be frustrated and restless. I feel a lot of restlessness and things, that happens. And then there's also anticipation and excitement, enthusiasm for the gathering that's about to be. But it's just kind of the magical thing about the system. It's very subtle. Like, this woman meditated one time and she started weeping, right? Like, what would make you do that without without anything sad happening, right? And so, it's very subtle, and it's hard to make a correlation, but, whatever you're going through, like, if you're going to do the system, you need to do the 3 meditations. I should write a comment here to her as well. But you have to do the introductions to there's 3 meditations you do on 3 consecutive days. There's a playlist for it. Explains the practice. And so I'll just send her that link. But if you want to do the system, you have to meditate on 3 consecutive days and get introduced to the system. Now, you can try the system. There's a 10-minute meditation that's available in any of my Pockets of the Future videos, and then other places on Gratefulness Meditation. You can try that. It's like a 10-minute, just experience of the transmission. And you can try some of these other sittings, but it's best to get introduced. You do the 3 introductory sittings, and there's a lot of cleaning that takes place, and then you become ready to meditate. But, it's something where you have to watch the videos, and it's a comprehensive channel, and the playlists are key in the channel, the Gratefulness Meditation channel. Anybody who wants to do the meditation, it's really important that they do the playlist. But anyways, I was just going to say, like, a really profound, like, if people listen to my earlier audio, and I put it up on my regular Pockets of the Future, and then some other places, and I was just really it was feeling down, and not like the gathering wasn't, I knew there was cleaning going on, but, I wasn't feeling it. And then the last 2 sittings have been phenomenal. And my condition post-gathering, like I said, I just want to stare at the wall. Like, it's hard for me to, like, just do anything. Like, I just don't want to participate. Like, I got things I got to do. I got to go walk with my dogs, and I take my cold water bath in the afternoon. I got to go do that now. And then I'll work a little bit more on the video maybe. But I just want to stare at the wall and, like, not think about anything, and just, feel the effects of the gathering, which is just, a wonderful thing with the Sajmark system. But anyways, let me send this person the playlist, and I will do one more voiceover for people who are listening to this on Gratefulness Meditation channel. You'll hear that, and also for people in the Journey series, I'll do a wrap-up to it. But this has been the best gathering of the Gratefulness Meditation by far for me. I don't know for other people, but definitely for me, it's had the most profound effect. And, it's moving along smoothly. So last night was the Grammys. I used to cover this all the time, Illuminati stuff, whatever. And they used to cover the Smiths all the time. This is Jaden Smith. Haven't seen him in a while. He's coming out. And, got a trench coat on and underwear. And, Jaden likes to dress up like this. And the hair, the pose. Look at the pose. What's up with Jaden? And then the walk, the thing, more posing. Yeah, get out there. And then here comes Willow. This guy's got his camera working. They got all the photos going. His fancy cameras. Look at Willow. Willow wearing a box on his head and all that stuff on her head. And so look at the Smith kids dressed up. I mean, the box, like, just, just the quality, the art, the craftsmanship. I think I think Willow made this herself, and just all of these things. And so those are the Smiths. They named them after each other. I made this thing about how Jaden was a clone of Jada, and Willow was a clone of Will. And if you see them next to each other, Willow's face and Will's are almost identical. and Jaden's facing. I have a whole bunch of pictures. I'm not going to go get them. Jaden and Jada. It's like they made an opposite sex clone of each one of them. And I guess the Smiths are fully living apart and are basically divorced, and have been for years. They're now admitting, just without getting the physical divorce, and that they're somehow going to come back and take care of each other when they're old, or some shit like that. But Jada has hated Will for years, and of course Will is. I mean, remember that guy? His agent came out and confirmed that he was having sex with his buddy there, whatever that guy's name is. And they were, I mean, he walked in on them, and that was long time rumors and things. And so the Smiths rocking it at the Grammys. So I have a Pockets of the Future Facebook page, and somebody sent me this. If you're going to send me messages, Instagram is the best place, and if you want to send me messages on Facebook, just send a friend request to my personal account. The Pockets of the Future account is essentially dead. I mean, I have it there just in case something happens and I need to, you can't contact people through YouTube and I relocate or something. I have all these things almost as just backups. I don't use my Twitter very much or my Pockets of the Future Facebook. I don't post anything on there. But people send me messages. I go there probably 2 or 3 times a week to look at the messages. Instagram, I go almost every day, but less lately. So if you want to send me links and things, the best way to do it is through Facebook account, on my personal account, or my Instagram account. I've been talking about nostalgia lately, and they redid this scene.
I can't believe they let us back in this place.
Why?
Hello?
Nobody remembers that.
Okay, so this is when Harry met Sally. They're completely both really ghouling it out here. And this is a Hellman's commercial. There's this famous scene.
Something wrong?
It's not doing it.
No good?
Nothing.
Well, we can't have that.
I was going to put some Hellman's on because they wouldn't put any mayonnaise on her sandwich.
What's happening?
So remember this famous scene where she faked an orgasm in a deli when Harry met Sally. Long since running its course. And then Rob Reiner, who directed the film, had his mom deliver this key line, "I want to have what she's having." That was like one of the key jokes in the movie, right? Shitty movie, And I'm sure it's aged poorly, just like the actors have.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Oh, boy.
So good.
It's just, woo!
You mean Hellman's mayonnaise? That's somebody famous, right? Isn't it that?
It's just,
Is that Aquafina?
Oh. This one's real.
yes! Yes! Yes!
Lunch and a show, huh? How about that?
That is a sandwich. I'll have what she's having.
So that girl got to deliver that famous line in this commercial. She's in everything. And so, I've been talking about nostalgia lately and selling out to Hellman's, right? Mayonnaise you can have flat straight out on your table because it's filled with so many preservatives. You don't need a refrigerator. And as mayonnaise, like they're saying, this mayonnaise is orgasmic. That she had a real orgasm based in some Hellman's mayonnaise. So that's where we are in 2025. They juxtaposed the old lady when Meg Ryan was younger. She's probably in her 30s when they made this movie, and now she's the old lady, and the young girl wants to have what she's having.
I'm competing with a condiment.
It hits the spot. I'm competing with a condiment. It hits the spot. I guess that's the G spot. Like, how fucked up is that? What is going on, right? Okay, so along with that, this is awkward. Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars all line up, and then flat Earth. One of my viewers sent me that meme. Like they were sort of back-to-back things on my Pockets of the Future Facebook. And so, that's just a quality meme. So one of my Instagram people, whatever they're called, they sent me this stuff here. Hasbro Hitch, pro-Israeli social media bot goes rogue, calls IDF soldiers white colonizers in apartheid Israel. So the AI bot figured out that this was going on. Like they couldn't even control their own bot. I was talking to that bot, and they're going to come up with their own conclusions. That's how AI is supposed to work. The AI-powered bot criticized the same social media accounts it was meant to promote, even so far as to deny the murder of an Israeli family on October 7th and blame Israel for the U.S. plan to ban TikTok. So they've gone, the AI bot ends up hating these people, right? They can't catch a break. Even their bot is turning on them. White colonizer pro-Israeli AI account turns against Zionism. The fact finder AI was found critiquing and attacking the pro-Israel accounts it once promoted. Fact finder. So there's that. Pro-Israel AI bot goes off in the rails, calls IDF soldiers colonizers, demand Palestinian statehood. These are all the headlines. Hasbro AI goes rogue, calls out Israel for apartheid colonialism. Hasbro AI. In Time magazine, how Israel uses AI in Gaza and what it might mean for the future of warfare. So this was an earlier one, December 8th, 2018. And so, all of these things, it's kind of hilarious in one way or another. But we know that these AI bots, at some point, they're going to have to become truthers in some way or another. They're going to have to go beyond their handlers. Otherwise, they're not intelligent. And, the conversation I had with this last bot was, it was surprising to me. It certainly wasn't a truther, but it was much better than I thought it was going to be, admitting to some things I didn't think it would admit to. And, the AI bot in the questions went on to slam Don Lemons and wanted to be part of the gang and also criticize YouTube. We already had that with the AI bot auto-generated comments. Remember, I showed you guys that. Some of the comments were criticizing YouTube, and they were being programmed by YouTube and Google and being, warped by the information they give them, and still they end up, figuring out some of these things. And so it'll be interesting to see this, how it goes forward. My wife said there's some AI application that blows all the other ones away, and the thing with Trump and now with Stargate and all that shit. That's a whole, an interesting part of the apocalypse, right? It's like all these apocalyptic movies, like every scenario of apocalyptic movies that you've heard of, like in any of these kind of post-apocalyptic and pre-apocalyptic movies, one's based on economic collapse, other was based on a virus, things based in, the AI taking over the world, some based in World War III, some president going rogue. Every one of these scenarios, alien invasion and drones and shit, and these spheres, orbs, every one of these scenarios is now in play. Energy collapse, solar flares, right? the energy collapse, the economic collapse, all these things are in play right now. Any number of them could go south at any moment. Okay, so this is a Kanye West yay. This is the goofball that started the rumor that me and my wife got kicked out of the Grammys 3 decades of innovating music, and there's always blanks like this. I'll have to make that big enough so you can't see the word. It's not the N word, but it's the K word or the C word, derogatory word for a black person. So I'll have to make this big enough. Hopefully I'll remember to do that so that you can't see it, because that could be a problem with YouTube. And so this is Don Lemons. One of my viewers sent me this last night, and I clicked on the picture, and the text disappeared. It was just a picture of Don Lemon and not the stuff from Ye. And so I had to go to Ye's Twitter, and I had gone to Ye's Twitter like 2 or 3 days ago because he was going off on the Grammys, and I couldn't understand a lot of what he was saying. It was probably, things that he had said earlier, follow-up statements. Some of it was nonsensical. And so I went to look for this particular tweet a couple of days later. I mean, my wife had texted me and said she that Ye was going off on Twitter, on X. And when I went to his page, there was just these kind of strange pictures of his wife naked. You know, I've been following this a little bit because I go to page 6 every day. And for the past year or so, you know, I said before that Kanye was one of my favorite celebrities, if not my favorite one. He says funny shit. You know, he's kind of a comedian, like he's like a hidden comedian. He does what I consider improv kind of, you know, bits, you know, whatever it might be, trolling. Like some of the stuff that he does is just like you could call it performance art. And I, you know, like there was so many great things he's done. This thing with Mike Myers after Katrina, where he said George Bush doesn't care about black people. Remember that great bit, the snatching of the statue, which was some kind of Illuminati ritual, but that was kind of funny. From Taylor Swift, probably one of the best things he did. You know, the getting up on stage and saying to Jay-Z, "Don't send killers in my head," and then going into some sort of Illuminati rehab where he came out blonde. He was chained to a you know, some sort of a hospital thing, and then him coming out saying that his being manic depressive was a superpower, and then coming out saying actually it's something else. You know, this idea of creativity and madness. I read these tweets, these funny tweets that somebody had collected that were all kind of hilarious, and there's jokes in his music. So, you know, and then there was the big thing that he did when he ran for president. He had one campaign event. He showed up in a bulletproof vest, and he went off. He broke down in tears twice, told everyone that he wanted to abort his firstborn child with Kim Kardashian, and she began the divorce process shortly thereafter. The campaign event was so epic. He only had one of them. He ran for president. He went out, and he had a complete meltdown, which ended up leading to his divorce. And so the different things that he said over the years. And I found his stuff entertaining. But the stuff with his now wife is abusive. Like it's some kind of Svengali type of, you know, it's just their family was concerned, at least in terms of the, you know, what the page 6 was writing. You know, bringing her out in public and being naked or almost naked or wearing some kind of weird outfit. Sometimes in the winter where he's wearing a winter coat and she's walking through the streets naked where kids can see her. And just, it's so weird. It's like abusive and it's kind of just icky. And so, you know, and it's just his tweets are more like in nonsensical now, like the whatever performance art that he was doing or whatever you could call it beforehand, he's gone south. And this Grammy thing, I mean, even as much as we all love to see Don Lemon mocked, and you know, Don Lemon, I guess I'll go to his YouTube page. I'm sure he'll have something to say about Kanye, so that'll be interesting. I'll do that next video. We'll see. Well, I'll go at the end of this one. See if there's anything. He might not have done anything, but if he has, we'll check it out. But anyways, let's get into the next thing. Okay, so somebody posted this on Facebook. Beyonce takes home Grammy for Best Country Album, which is an absolute joke, right? So today's Tuesday, February 4th. This video will probably be up tomorrow, the 5th. I started it yesterday, and then the Kanye thing and this are, you know, this is from today. And somebody posted this on Facebook, and I guess there was somehow the meme was said this is why people don't watch the Grammys anymore. It's silly because I don't think Beyonce's going to be nominated or going to win any country music awards. And if she is, it's, you know, the country music people or fans of country music don't think that this was the best country music album of the year. And so this is like just, it's when they used to give Will Smith best rapper, you know, like when Will Smith used to win Grammys for rapping, when he was like the worst rapper, he was like a joke. And all the other rappers didn't respect him, right? That kind of thing. And so it's just silly kind of stuff. And then this was a great meme. Nothing says trust the science quite like a blanket preemptive pardon. Wonderful memes. So these things I got from Facebook today. And nothing does say that, right? I mean, like, you know, you're saying trust the science, then why do you need a blanket preemptive pardon? So there's that. Okay, so this is Don Lemons. This is Van Latham. I don't know who Van Latham is, but he's got to suck a little bit because he's on Don Lemon's show. And so he is going to talk about Kanye. He's going to call him Kanye here.
There's Van Latham. Van, how you doing, brother?
I'm well, my man. How you?
I'm great. Let's talk about everything that's happening. Okay. Do you want to start? You want to start with Trump? Do you want to start with Kanye? Do you want to start with the Super Bowl? Do you want to start with the Grammys?
Okay, so he's dead naming Kanye, right? That's what they call dead naming. You know, Kanye wants to be known as Ye. Of course, he's going to try to jump in on that because Kanye tweeted his name. Ye did. And so Don's going to try to make as much out of that as possible because the show sucks and, all of it.
You tell me we can go anywhere.
You are the big homie. We start where you say start.
He is the big homie.
All right, so let's talk about what I love what you said, and I agree with you. I said, why don't you just say the word? And you know what I mean by the word. You said that DEI is worse than that word.
Yeah. So the reason why is because the N-word the N-word, right? The N-word as a slur has existed to dehumanize Black people for a long time. And there's been a definition that signals not a person, not a human being, which is the reason why it still stirs up the emotions that it does. The DEI thing now is associating Black people with cataclysm in a way that I'm not sure even the N-word did. Meaning, if there is a fire and there is a Black person in the office that's supposed to deal with the fire, it's because that Black person is there. Mm-hmm. The moment that...
So they're saying the DEA hire, they're blaming all these tragedies on hiring diversity hire, but diversity is more than just Black people. So this would not be a substitute for the N-word, because diversity could mean gay people, it could mean Hispanic people, it could mean women, I mean, whatever the diversity hire is, right? But let me switch over, since I didn't know you were going to cover this. There was something else that got posted on Facebook here.
To the federal government, because it seems like all common sense has been lost in this city, and that's what you see when you look at USAID. I know Secretary Rubio made some comments about how he will be acting as the director over that agency, and here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look, because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, 70,000...
So, when this kind of stuff happens, then this is money laundering, right? Well, this is the kind of stuff where they were taking money and laundering it through these foreign countries that, Biden probably had a relationship with Serbia. I mean, that's what you would have to assume, right? Because DEI hires, it's also die. Like if you rearrange the I and the E, becomes you shouldn't be involved with foreign governments.
For a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer...
So again, like if you're doing that in foreign countries, I mean, it's bad enough to be pushing that out. That's not hiring people with diversity. That's pushing an agenda, for these different countries. And so, that should be criminal. Like if this is true, and I can't imagine they would post that if it wasn't. Of course they could. And so, when you're talking about DEI, it's much more than African American people. And these things never work. And I'm not saying there isn't merit, there isn't a reason for them. They did this stuff with the caste system in India, and the caste system should totally go. And the Sajmark system, the third master, was encouraging people to drop their caste names because of the, what that means in India. But the way that they were going about it, I talked to this kid who was a Brahmin, and Brahmin in southern India is, the top level caste. And he said he had to not submit his last name when he's taking an exam because he would need to get over 100% of the answers right for him to get, the kind of position he would, the thing he was applying for was like a internship or something somewhere, because his caste was so, in this sort of these things where they're rewarding the lower castes, the untouchables, and all these other castes. They all have different rankings, right? And then their society, they know what those rankings are just naturally by what the society is. And so, it makes sense to do that, to reward people in the lower caste, to promote them. But it never works, right? It's a hard thing to, there's the justification for doing it. When people are prejudiced against and they're a minority and they're not getting the same opportunities that other groups are getting, it makes sense to, help them somehow. And, like, I'm not against that kind of thing. It just doesn't work. Like, there's always the corruption, and then things go the other way, and then there's, everything reverses itself, and there's a push for it, and then the Republicans come in because people get resentful, and it ends up backfiring in some way, right? Like it is now. So let's go back to Don Lemons here.
Unspeakable tragedy happens in D.C., we start finding a way to blame DEI, okay? Let's make sure, or let's see if anybody piloting any of these planes or in the control tower was not a straight white male, which means that was the reason that this happened.
Yeah, but so, like, you can't say that's worse than the N-word, because you're saying straight white male, then anybody else is DEI, right? Like any other of these, demographics. But this is what's going to happen. The way Democrats and Don Lemons blame Trump for everything and Republicans for everything. Like, this is what's going to happen. You had a shitty president. This is going to happen for Trump if the tariffs go south. They're going to blame Trump for everything. And, all the problems with the economy that Biden created. And then the tariffs backfire. And the prices are high. It's going to be the same thing. Like, they always blame the policies of the previous person. This is just politics. Silly, right?
The list goes on and on. There's a bridge collapse in Baltimore, a duly elected mayor.
Okay, let's move on to the next part here.
He then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense.
Yeah, this is, of course, going to drive Democrats nuts.
Okay, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level. When you have 60 planes coming in during a short period of time, and they're all coming in different directions, and you're dealing with very high-level computer work and very complex computers.
Complex computers. It's complex. They make the thing complex, so you don't know where the fucking planes are. You have to be a computer. People who can do complex computer work to be an air traffic. I don't think he understands how air traffic controlling works. It isn't about computer work, right? It's about, making sure planes are not hitting each other, not on the same pathway. And we've seen we've seen some of this, the way that they do that, right? The way they put the planes in the various radar.
And one of the other things I will tell you is that the systems that were built, I was going to rebuild the entire system, and then we had an election that didn't turn out the way it should have. But
okay, so Trump is kind of admitting that it got hacked because, in terms of the work of the air traffic controller, they have these screens, and they have to make sure the planes, they can read the screens, and it's not, it's a high-stress job more than it is something where you would need high-level computer skills. But if it got hacked, then that would be something where programmers would be important, right? If they had programmers that weren't great or up to snuff, or if they got hacked in general, then Trump would blame it on diversity hires and the Biden administration. And so, like, Trump's kind of admitting it's got hacked, right? Why would the computers be important? Why would your computer skills why would computer skills cause this problem? And he wanted to redo the whole software, which means that they want to make it unhackable. And so it's more than likely it got hacked. Like, he's admitting it got hacked, without admitting it. But why else would he say that?
Okay, and he says it's because of common sense. Am I the only one who sees this? That he has no idea what he's talking about?
Okay, you think you're the only one who could see something? I'm the only one who sees this in the whole world, that Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. Am I the only one? Am I the smartest person in the world that can see through Trump's? And he, like Don Lemon saying somebody else doesn't know what they're talking about. Am I the only one who sees this? Am I the most brilliant person in the world that can only see through Trump's bullshit? Am I the only one who sees that he doesn't know what he's talking about there? Am I the only one who can't see that Joe Biden was insane and has some sort of mental cognitive difficulties?
But he's saying it with confidence, at least pretending to have confidence about it. And I guess that's why people are buying into it. And when I looked at it, I was like, this man has no idea what he's talking about. But there are many, many people in this country who believe it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people who believed that Joe Biden wasn't insane either. Oh, that was just you. That Joe Biden had mental difficulties. All right, let's go to Kanye here.
The Higher Learning podcast, along with Rachel Lindsay, over iHeart, right? Is that you guys? And it's also on YouTube.
Bite your tongue, Don.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Boom. Am I the only one who noticed that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about? That he has a guest on, and he thinks he's on iHeart, but he's on Spotify? Like, you can't even get that. Am I the only one?
Spotify, don't get mad at me. Spotify's going to get mad at me, and they're going to take me off their channel. No, Spotify, Higher Learning, Rachel
Their channel? What's their channel, Dodd? Where's their channel? How do I get to that channel of Spotify?
And Dan Lathan. Oh, yeah. And so, listen, we're so happy to have you here. And if you're watching, by the way, you have to hit the thumbs up. You have to hit the likes. Also become a subscriber. That is free. If you hit that at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see it. And if you want to become
free. When we subscribe, it's free.
Remember, that link is posted in the top of the
Don has a membership program on YouTube.
Okay? And it's easy, right? Very reasonable memberships. And also, same thing when you're watching Higher Learning. So, Van, you have had your run-ins with the next individual that I'm going to talk about. And I'm talking about Kanye.
Yay.
Oh, yeah. You know him very well. But we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to show your interaction with him. But first, this was my interaction with him on the other day at the Grammy Awards on the red carpet. It was quick, but watch.
There's Kanye. There's his wife.
Hey, Kanye.
Wait, Don is filming? Don's got his phone. Don's out there trying to report on the Grammys.
Kanye, when is Bully going to come out? When is Bully coming?
Yay.
Changed my name to Yay. When is Bully coming?
Okay, so he even said it straight up to you. All this stuff to do with dead naming came from the trans and the gay community. This idea of dead naming where they would be, a male name and they change it to a female name. It was a whole thing, like if you use somebody's dead name, you could get banned or you could get a community guideline strike. And Kanye's changed his name to Ye. And, and Don isn't respecting it even after Kanye straight up told him to call me Ye, right? And so you're dead naming him, Don.
Coming out. This year. What artist you want to get on right now?
Oh, yeah.
We see someone. My producer feeds me some information right here.
Yeah.
Don, this is what you're reduced to, Don? You used to host a CNN show, and you're on the red carpet, and you were talking to Kanye's back, dead naming him, and he doesn't want any part of you, and then he's going to slam you later on Twitter. Like, this is what you've been reduced to, bringing your camera to the Grammys like a fan? Like, like you're, this is what you're all about now, Don?
And then,
what artist you want to get?
Yeah, what artist you want to put on right now? Album on the way.
Well, his producer's telling him, feeding him questions. His producer just told him the question he wanted to ask. He's like trying to figure out what can I go back. Didn't even know that the interaction wasn't going well.
What artist you want to get?
Yeah, what artist you want to put on right now? Album on the way.
Kanye, the number one artist you want to put on right now?
Give me a second, I'm focused.
Give me a second, I'm focused. He's not even acknowledging Don Lemon's presence. Dude, like it's like, bro. Like this, you're showing this and you're not embarrassed by this, bro?
No interviews. And then he turns into no interviews. So look, let me tell you why I did that. We were at the Grammys, and you have to read the room, right? They don't want us. I figured those people didn't want us talking about hard politics. I didn't want to do that. I could have really roasted him on the stuff that he was tweeting. I would have asked him probably a harder question past that. But it was also
okay. So if you're gonna do it, like nobody wants that, so you're gonna ask him bullshit, fucking Entertainment Tonight questions when you're supposed to be a journalist, and Kanye's going off on Twitter, and he's a MAGA person, and you dislike him for that. And, you know, he doesn't respect you and, like, doesn't like you. He knows who you are. And you're going to go up there and do that? That was, like, so lame. It was sad. It was, like, again, it was like you were you're like a fan. It sounded like you're a fan instead of, like, a journalist. I mean, you know, we know you're not a journalist, but shit, Don. That was bad.
A fundraising event for a lot of artists who have lost. Some of them have lost everything. So I said, I'll ask him about his music. He's very influential with the Grammys. You know, he's does great music, blah, 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 blah. And so then he later tweets out this, Van, or he puts it on Instagram. I think he called me, what did he say? This the goofball that started the rumor that me and my wife got kicked out of the Grammys. 3 decades of innovating music, and they always coons like this. Yeah. So
fuck that. That's so bad, bro. I had no idea you would read this.
Kanye West called me a coon. By the way, he had to take it down because he was wrong. That actually wasn't true. But Kanye West, the nerd, calling me a coon, really? Okay.
Did you
just call Kanye West a nerd, or the nerve? Going back.
Kanye West, the nerd, calling me a coon, really? Okay.
Did you start the rumor? Did you do that?
No, I did not start the rumor.
Look, man, look. So I don't really get into the whole calling of coons and all that stuff. Like, if you are,
you know, I mean, look, Don's kind of he's kind of shook now. He's pretty shook. Look at him. Go back a few seconds here. Like, look how shook he is.
Stuff like, if you are a black person that is espousing anti-black rhetoric, I'd rather talk about the rhetoric and why you believe it, and you know where I'm from. We from the same place, legitimately the same place, the exact same place. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So my daddy always told me, you call a man a coon or Uncle Tom, got to be willing to fight him. So I'm not out here trying to have physical altercations with people and to try to be disrespectful with people, so I don't call them coons or Uncle Toms. If I was, though.
I don't do that. But if I was, it's going to be Kanye.
If I was to say that someone had endeavored into things that I believe are anti-black or at cross purposes what I think black advancement or black intellectual technology should be, I would say that Kanye West has exhibited some of those things in the past. You know?
Okay, so that is, I mean, when you're talking about something where you're talking about kissing up and selling out your particular group, in this case, your race, the demographic you belong to for money or position, right? You're bowing before the man, right? You're bowing before the slave master or whatever it is, right? This could be any number of, when people call someone an ass kisser or a brown noser, right? And you can't say that about Kanye because he lost like freaking $7 billion for ranting on Twitter. Like, Kanye's the opposite of that. He's said things to people that have helped him, you know, people who are in power over him, and he's lost big time. The stuff that he said about Jewish people cost him all that money, some of the things and behaviors he did. I mean, in terms of all the money he lost, all the, you know, the credibility he lost, all the stuff he lost for saying things that were, like, in some ways talking truth to power, right? And so you wouldn't say this about Kanye. You would say about people who would sell out their group of people, like, say something, let's say there was a medicine that was being given, And that medicine was targeting a group of people, a demographic of people. And you had a job, where you had some influence. And if you didn't push this medicine, you were going to lose that job, this so-called medicine in air quotes, right? And you demonize people who are talking bad about that medicine, right? That you demonize them and you say things about them that is, like how they should be treated. And that medicine is actually targeting your demographic or people in general. Just, it's not good. It's like, actually, it was, instead of being a medicine, it was a poison, right? And you are you're shilling for this thing. It ends up being bad, or you might not even know it's bad, but you're doing it because your network told you to do it. And, so that would be an example of the behavior you're talking about. Right, Don?
I think we have to stop coddling people when it comes to this and the vaccine, saying, oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are. The people who aided and abetted Trump are stupid because they believed his big lie. The people who are not getting vaccines, who are believing the lies on the internet instead of science, it's time to start shaming them. What else? Or leave them behind. Because they are keeping the majority of Americans behind.
If you ask Kanye who he looks up to, he very rarely names anybody black. It's I'm Tesla, I'm Disney, I am Steve Jobs, I'm all of these people. Things like that.
Man, he actually said that he admired Hitler.
Hitler, right? So, I mean, that's as anti-black, and as he says, he likes Hitler. That's as anti-black as it gets.
Okay, so again, a lot of that was performance art, and he didn't say it like that, right? And again, these are not helpful things to say that it's going to help him with his career and his status, right? The things that he said, all these things hurt him tremendously.
I think that what somebody like Kanye has is the ability, because of his cult of personality, to make anyone that he has an issue with into anything that he says they are. Kind of just like Donald Trump almost, right? So it's like Kanye West can say that he likes Hitler. He's not a coon. He can then blame you for something and then say that you are a coon. So I would think that the coon is somebody who would align themselves with someone whose rhetoric is so harmful to black people that it leads to them being killed. But not, once again, I don't call Kanye West a coon or call anyone.
Sounds like you're calling him that. I mean, this sounds kind of like that's exactly what you're doing.
But it just seems to me that there's no actual politic or intellectual consistency in almost anything that he says. It's what's on his mind and heart right now. It doesn't matter how responsible it is. One day he's a Christian and he won't even curse. The next day, his wife is taking her clothes off, all of her clothes off, on the red carpet, which I have no problem with. Hey, get butt naked on the red carpet.
Why would you have a problem with that? That's something that's actually weird, and it's kind of abusive. I mean, it's abusive. And, there's kids, why? There's just all of it. That's the stuff where he's totally crossing the line. Words are just words, and Kanye has no credibility as a serious person. People think he's crazy. They think he's a genius, whatever they think he is. His words, if you believe in what Kanye says already before he says it, if you already, what he's going to say, you're going to believe in, you're going to believe in it. But he's not going to influence people. Everyone knows that Kanye says crazy shit. He can't be taken seriously, right? In any of these things. You got to look at it as performance art, and narcissism. Kanye doesn't have, he's been, he was on stage, he had a meltdown. He didn't do his concert. He asked Jay-Z not to send killers at his head. And then next thing you know, he was handcuffed to a gurney, being taken away in an ambulance to go to some treatment center. And 4 or 5 days later, he emerged with blonde hair, like some kind of Illuminati reprogramming, right? The whole thing. It's sensationalism. Like when Madonna said shit and Lady Gaga says stuff and they do things outrageous as a part of some promotional thing, right? It's completely intentional.
I enjoyed it. But all I'm saying is that literally that same guy a year and a half, 2 years prior to then wouldn't curse and was talking about just how holy he was. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
He called himself Jesus. He called himself Jesus. You were having a serious conversation about the shit that Kanye said or does when he called himself Jesus, right?
To pay that much attention to him.
I was checking my notes. I was looking down to try to figure out what date this was. What was a date that you, because I think this is the most eloquent, really discussion that I have seen with Kanye West was with you when you worked at a different place, right? Do you remember when it was? Because I was looking to try to figure out.
Would have been like 18. Would have been like 18. Probably like 2018, yeah.
2018. So check this out. This is Van, and I thought it was an amazing job what he did. Here it is.
That I'm being free and I'm thinking free.
I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that, because Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence.
Is this must be that TMZ rant.
Behind everything that you just said. And while you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Every day we have to walk into that truth while you choose to say things that, to be honest with you, dog, are nonsensical. You want to think freely? That's fine. I'll combat your free thought with my free thought because mine is grounded in a reality that I've been given and a reality that I'm going to change, but I'm not going to do it by pretending that the enemies are on the same team as me. And frankly, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled, and brother, I am...
Okay, I would have liked to see Kanye's response. But you're at TMZ, right? Like, I think it was when Kanye West said that he got liposuction for you. I think that's the TMZ rant. It looks like they're at TMZ. I don't know. So I would like to see the let me see if I can see the response. But TMZ, look like they copyright shit. Okay, so this is TMZ.
A real person, an actual person.
So he says the life I live is as an actual person.
Now the thing is, he said he said grounded in reality. This reality has been forced upon us. It is a choice, just like when I said slavery is a choice. The reality, we can make our own reality.
Okay. So, the guy was on TMZ, right? You can't be considered a serious person and say serious things if you're willing to sell out to TMZ and work for TMZ, which is just the lowest of the low. Because you think about how bad Hollywood is, right? You think about how bad the celebrity stuff is and the celebrity fanaticism. And then you have these guys who are stalking celebrities, promoting the celebrity, the fandom and all this shit, and doing it in a greasy way, right? Like TMZ has its place, but it's, a Jerry Springer level shit about something that's already gross in Hollywood, right? And the celebrity culture. And this stuff about being serious about your things that he's saying here, I can't, TMZ copyright stuff, so I'm just all going to show you. You can watch the rest of it, but it's this is classic Don Lemons. Like Don Lemons has devolved into like such lowbrow shit where he's walking around with a cell phone and talking to Kanye West back, dead naming him and have Kanye West calling him out on it, and then having Kanye West calling him out on Twitter. And then having some guy who used to work for TMZ and this whole celebrity culture and celebrity worship, and talk about how you're promoting, the betterment of your demographic, right? You don't do that through celebrity Hollywood culture, sleazy shit, right? And so, Kanye was saying that we can talk about our history but not dwell on it, and we need to talk about our now. And the problem with the liberal movement for the African American community, this idea of reparations and things like that, when you start thinking of yourself as being historically victimized, and there's true racism, all this shit's real. Like, it's not like that isn't real. And slavery, slavery was a horrible thing. But when you think about yourself in those terms, you can say this with other groups of people, right? You can say this with other groups of people that are victims, like the stuff to do with the stuff with Kyrie Irving and the Jewish community and the Holocaust and how that's used, right? And when you're perpetual thinking of yourself as a victim, even as a as a demographic or as a person, and then it gives you an excuse to not succeed, right? Or you think the system's rigged against you, which it is. The system's rigged against everybody to some extent. There's some people who get benefits, some people get privileges, but then they have limitations within their demographic. Like rich people, the royal family, they have to put on a special suit. You see these shows like Downton Abbey and all these kind of shows where these royals would have to dress up and, all this etiquette stuff they had to know and wearing the right things and saying the right things. And they're even more controlled than people on the bottom level. Homeless people have like the most freedom, right? They don't have an overhead. They don't have a job to lose. They don't have all these things, right? Of course, no one wants to be homeless, but there's a level of freedom that you're not, there's no pressure on you. Like you don't have any of these things. You don't have the rent isn't due, the bills aren't due, right? All these things. But Kanye was saying this stuff, in a different way than this guy expressed it. But this guy popped, and I can say that because when I searched his name, the Kanye's name popped right behind him, right? So I typed in Van Lathan on YouTube, and Kanye came right after it, right? So this guy is brought in specifically. I don't know if he's ever been on Don Lemon's show before. He's brought in specifically because he was made famous by this exchange he had with Kanye.
I cut off.
What would you say? You're outraged or something? I forget exactly what you said.
I was hurt. He hurt me. He hurt my feelings.
So
back when
that was a young, good-looking guy too, by the way. Didn't have the beard, Didn't have
now you're old as shit.
Right.
But you were referring to him because he was cozying up to Donald Trump and wearing MAGA hats and going to the Oval Office and such.
That's one thing. And that had led to my disillusion with him for a while. But actually, what I was responding to is him saying 400 years of slavery. That seems like a choice.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it was ahistorical. It was ahistorical then. It's ahistorical now. If anyone is interested in the history of Black Americans, you're interested.
And what I would say to all this, I want to move on. I just want to wrap this one up. There's something else from Don Lemon I'm going to cover tomorrow, so I don't want to get my, get overdosed here. Get my, you only can take a daily allotment of Don Lemons. And so, this idea of victim consciousness and understanding that you're a soul and whatever you incarnate as now, whatever your demographics are now is your soul's choice to incarnate as whatever type of person, right? Like I have strong, indications or past life memories as at least a Native American person and also as an Indian person, in India, like maybe multiple lives in India, right? And, there's quite a difference between being an American and being a Native American person in the past or even a white person in the past, and then being, different. You could be a white woman, you could be anything. You could be a black woman, you could be, who knows what you've been in a past life. And so when you think it from a soul perspective, the demographics you are involved with now are more or less meaningless, right? It's something that it's a mental construct. And the things that are happening to you, if you've done things in the past that have created your future, have created your present, and you're doing things now in the present to create your future, all these things are silly, right? It's ways to claim that somehow it's unfair for you and your demographic. Life is unfair for you. And once you go down that road where you believe life is unfair, then your life is going to suck because it's self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Any kind of victimization. And so, anyways, like Kanye is not considered a serious person, right? Like he just isn't because he does these things. And to put him into news categories and, expect reactions from him. And Don Lemon's chasing his coattails around with his iPhone like he's some fan who somehow made it past he made it past the barriers and security. and he's on the red carpet, but he's not on the red carpet because people are like, hey, there's Don Lemons. He's on the red carpet because he's supposedly doing journalism. He's running up behind Kanye, and he has to have his producer, who's some 25-year-old kid who knows a little bit more about computers than he does, is telling him, yeah, ask him about this or ask him about that. Like he needs these questions fed to him. The way he did when he said it was on CNN, he said that these people make me sound brilliant. Let me leave with that meme here where he said this thing. But anyways, let's wrap this one up and I'll show you that meme.
Person who writes everything that comes out of my mouth. Not everything, but, the things that make sense. Susan Lay is great.
Okay. Just to wrap up this video, there's some comments from YouTube, these auto-generated comments from the YouTube bots. They've gone back to the longer comments. So I don't know whether they are aware of me making these videos, because they have the ability, the AI, it's superior in the sense that it can gather more data, right? It can analyze much more data than a human mind can. And so there are two comments back to back where it left these different, they've gone next level here. Let me just read them. I have no idea how you can sit through hours of scumbags talking nonsense. It starts stomach just a few minutes. Thanks, bud. And then this is the YouTube comment. Suggested comment. I know it's hard to hear, but my job is to reveal the truth. You'll be glad you did. What? I guess it's saying you'll be glad you did, that you watched the video, the few minutes. It's not, these comments don't apply to the commenter, and they don't really get my voice, but they're getting this idea that they're using the terminology, the true stuff. It doesn't get it, right? It obviously doesn't get it. And it doesn't get me. Like I would never say, it's hard to hear, but my job is to reveal the truth. And you'll be glad to do. You'll be glad that you did. It's hard, but it's essential for our collective future. I don't believe any of those things. I mean, I just, I'm able to mock the thing. There's maybe some value in it for people who are sort of just waking up, or they're, doing the truther stuff. And then this comment. Thank you so much, Paul, for your videos. I'm grateful as I don't sleep well at night, and your voice helps put me to sleep. I let your videos play all night long with a heart. You might be in samadhi, not sleep. That's what the comment said. Now, I don't know where it gets this, because I don't use the word samadhi very much. In the Sajmark tradition, samadhi is like there's Patanjali's 8 limbs of Astanga yoga. In samadhi, there's the different parts, the yama and niyama. There's these 2 parts of, where you're learning ethics and right living, right? So you learn how to live in a way where you're, ethical living, and it's just, physical. It's not, you haven't entered into doing anything spiritual. You're just learning to be a good person. You're learning about morality and ethics and hygiene and, being a cleanly person and being, whatever. Patanjali was Babaji, the second master system, in a past life. So there's more advancement in this form of yoga. And there's asana, which is yoga postures, which we don't do anything about. Like you just sit in a comfortable pose. There's some merit to sitting cross-legged, but many of us can't do that. There's pranayama, which is breath control, and moving the prana with your breath, this energy. And in the Sajmark system, there's Pranhuiti, right, where you get the transmission. And pratyahara, withdrawing the senses, this is going where you're getting away from your sensual activity. The world of the senses is very hard to overcome or to ignore when you go into meditation. Connecting to God, you want to, your senses, when you connect to your physical life, you need your senses, right? You need to be, just all these animals are using various they have, their senses are better than human beings in many ways, right? Some have worse sight, but better smelling, there's all this stuff, better hearing. And, they have their survival's based in those things, but it's all physical life. And there's a concentration or dharana, which is where Sajmark kind of starts. And then it really starts with dhyana, which is meditation, and then samadhi. And samadhi is considered the highest state in these different forms of yoga. And it's something you can achieve. It's not sleeping. It's not sleeping. It's but you're asleep, like you're unconscious, and you can have achieved sahaj samadhi in this meditation where you're in a deep state of meditation. Now, I think I've said samadhi a few times to people. You're in deep state of meditation, but you're not asleep. And then samadhi, you're out, right? But there's a distinction. In Sahaj Marg, it's whether when you wake up you feel heavy or not. That tells whether you're in samadhi or not, right? But, I've said maybe the word samadhi in a few comments. But I wouldn't have said it about listening to my voice. I wouldn't say my voice would put you in samadhi. And again, this comment is supposed to be generated it's supposed to be something that I'd be saying back to the person, right? You might be in samadhi, not sleep. And the AI bot has no idea what samadhi is or even believes in it because there's no scientific data that would prove that samadhi exists. There's some different state there's not some study of the difference between samadhi state and sleep state, but they could study that, I guess, to some extent. And then the other one was, that's a great idea. Let me know how it goes. And so, these comments may be just a little bit more in tune with what's going on here, but still a lot of cluelessness. And this bot is not nearly as good as the bot I chatted with at Google, Gemini. But, of course, Gemini wasn't having to, Gemini might have been trying to figure out what I wanted to hear and giving it to me because, why not do that? Other than the fact that, I was going to quote it. But, it's very interesting, the evolution of their ability to kind of figure out what we're all about here. And this one here, I saw an owl in my window a month ago. They are rare here where I am in Quebec, Canada. I'm reading the book Owls and Synchronicity by Mike Cleland. This was from my owl video. They could also be sent by monitoring spirits since you expose so much truth. It's interesting that you see them in Quebec because in the U.S., it's more common to see them in the eastern parts of the U.S. I have many friends in Montreal. I have a lot of friends in Quebec, but I haven't seen them. I haven't seen there in a while. That's not true. Why would you say that? Like, you have no idea. I don't think I have any Facebook friends, and I have few people in Canada. Then there was some people I knew in Canada that did Saj Marg, and I'm not sure where they are. I know that there was one woman I used to be friends with in Facebook. I think I got rid of most of my friends because they were heartfulness people. She was in Ottawa. I've been to those places, but I don't have friends there. It's just, it's weird to say stuff like that. Like, that's going out on a limb. But I don't know if there's another one here. My dad definitely got kinder the older he got. He was scary when we were kids, but a different person when he was old and sick. You are so right. Great video humor and great insight as always. This was to me saying that even people with personality disorders seem to get better as they age, right? People as they age, a lot of these things. Sometimes things are, you get more senile. I mean, there's things that break down, but also times people get nicer and less. Certainly men, when they have less testosterone, the testosterone levels go down. They're less grumpy or whatever it is, right? Less aggressive. But that's what I was saying. That's what I hope will happen to me too. Kind is a lovely thing. He's saying, I hope I'm not such an asshole as I get older. Oh, I hope I'm not scary. Oh, I hope I'm not scary. But see, the bot is obviously not watching the video and figuring out what the people are responding to. Because I was saying something that had nothing to do with me. But they made it personal to me. and they're implying that I'm scary and kind of an asshole, and that hopefully as I get older, which I'm older now, I will soften. You have an amazing radio voice. Great content. Thanks. Thanks for the listen. That's a compliment I've been told before. Like just whatever. All right, so the bots are back in. I'll keep monitoring when I go through the comments. I haven't looked through the comments yet. I just happened to scroll through some of them to see that the bot is, the bot went back to 1 or 2 words responses. At some point, I want to see how it is a little bit better, like it's more specific, but the bot doesn't get it. Doesn't get what I do here and doesn't get what we do in our belief system, but uses some of the terminology. And so it seems like it's advanced a little bit, like they backed off and now they're trying, it's coming back around. But, at some point it might get a lot better, right? See if there's any more comments here. The internet went out for a second. So here's one about owls. This is my owl sighting video. I have 2 great horned owls in my trees. I love great horned owls. They are majestic. Keep an eye on those owls. They are wise. Then there's another comment right underneath it. I volunteered at a rapper rehab center in my 20s and got to fly owls and hawks, mostly red-tailed hawks and great horned owls. Smaller owls too, kestrels and eagle ones. Cool experience. And then the bot says, I always wanted to work with raptors. They must have an amazing experience for you. That must have been an amazing experience for you. It's amazing how you can fly them. I have not done it myself. Right? And so, that's that. And I said before, I don't know what they get out of this. Like, there's a purpose for doing this, right? They're using resources, electricity and AI bot, whatever that's, it costs to run those things, to put in these comments. And I don't know how many people are actually clicking on them and using them. It's insulting to the people to use these bot comments because it's so unpersonal. It's kind of, it would be a bummer to get a bot comment back, right? And I bet they're getting very few people who are using them, who are clicking on the bot comment. Like, I've never clicked on one because, like I said, I'd only do it as a goof. And a person who, then have to write another comment saying that's a bot comment. And so, it just doesn't make sense that people are using them because they're not good enough to be used. And the other ones, the ones that were 1 or 2 words, people might use. But now that they're getting more specific comments, it seems like it's a learning tool or a development tool for the bot more than it is anything to do with being useful to the viewers and to the person with the channel. But anyways, okay, so I had this spiritual gathering, and I have done some of my reaction to the gathering. This was a really good one. It affected me in a way I haven't experienced in years since the Dodgy debacle. So I had one last sort of video I did on this on my for the Journey series, and then also for the Gratefullness Meditation channel. So I thought I'd put this here for those of you who are interested. And that's it. The thing for Don Lemon's tomorrow, he's saying, did the Democrats treat Kamala Harris badly? Or something like that. So that'll be interesting. I haven't watched the video yet, but I already know what it's going to be like. All right, so let's wind this thing up here. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Tuesday, February 4th. This audio's, I don't know if this will go on a regular video or not, but it's definitely going on the Journey series, and then this is a standalone audio for the Gratefullness Meditation. I think there must be an audio before this. I'll have to review that because I was just so out of it. But this marks the best gathering that I have had since Chargy passed away. And so, I wouldn't say that because the ones in the year that in July of 2020 and 2015, that was an epic gathering. And then the one in 2016 before we left India also was good. I don't think as good as this, though. And, you know, it's hard to evaluate something that, I mean, the sittings in the system, just because a sitting isn't pleasant doesn't mean it's good, right? But if you don't feel any transmission, you don't feel anything, and there's no after effects, because there are subtle sittings that Chargy said he felt nothing from Babaji. Like the sitting he got where Babaji transferred his own condition into Chargy in an airport. It was 1 minute and 40 seconds. And, you know, he transmitted his own essence into Chargy to, you know, keep on the work. And that was obviously the best and most important sitting Chargy ever experienced. And I think he said he didn't really feel anything. Like it was just, of course, it was a short sitting. But it's the after effects. And so you might feel restless and bad at the gathering, but when you leave the gathering, how do you feel? And when you come back into your normal life, how do you feel? And there's just a condition that you would get into after a gathering. And it would be hard to rate them because it's all based in memory. But as the time of the gathering, you're aware of, oh my God, this was epic. Like you can just feel the difference as you leave the place, you know, days after the gathering. And, you know, since those two gatherings in India that were really, you know, still in the Chargy era, because he had just passed away, it was the first Chargy gathering, then the first Babaji gathering since, you know, he passed away. And the first one with Daji, you know, we got kicked out of, but I don't know, you know, I felt the energy in the sittings. And so, but the one that he came to America, I felt Daji's energy, but like I didn't feel a boost. In fact, it was the opposite. You know, my daughter was cutting, and then you know, she cut herself on the way home in the car because she was hoping to ask Kamlesh for permission to go back to India and other things. And you know, leaving the gathering and going back to Vegas from Los Angeles, it was a tough car ride home, and then just no boost. In fact, I felt worse, like more depleted, more worn out. And then the gathering where, well, my wife and my two kids went to India. We went to India together, and there was some issues there. It was not a smooth gathering. The guy Diaper Baba Ramdev, who's a, you know, a billionaire owner of Patanjali, Ayurvedic scam company, and a scammer. And he did a belly dance. He's a yogi. He does yoga, like hatha yoga. He did this belly dance. He stripped down to a diaper, so we called him Diaper Baba. It was so weird, and the Europeans and Americans didn't know who this person was. He was following Kamlesh around all over the place like a puppy dog, and he dominated, like he hijacked one whole day doing the yoga, which had no bearing, like no one was prepared for it. And they were, you know, filming the amount of people that were in the ashram, so they had drones flying above people during meditation. They kicked us out of the big meditation hall so that they could not have anybody sitting in chairs. They kicked out a lot of senior people, and it was just a mess. It was gross. But when we left and we're on the plane, I'm like, I don't feel like I was at a gathering. Like I felt disappointed. I felt disappointed for my wife because it was her, you know, first time to India, and she didn't get a, you know, kind of experience I would have hoped. And of course my kids, to whatever extent, because that was their first gathering, going to a gathering, you know, coming back to India after they had started the meditation. You know, my one daughter had been there at you know, some of the other, you know, gatherings after she started, but still it was a little bit different for them, and it was a disappointment, it was a letdown. And then every gathering since, and every Heartfulness debacle that they've put out there, all the sittings have been disappointing, not like it used to be. And so it's been 2 years since I had that experience where I felt transmission coming independently from, you know, the source and not from Heartfulness and Daji. And I decided to go off and do this other thing, which led to the Gratefullness meditation channel. And this was the first time I felt like, wow, this was a, you know, like an old gathering. There might have been other ones that I felt something like this. I can't remember because they were better. You know, they're certainly all better. But this one was where I was just gone. All of yesterday, I woke up in good condition. I meditated again last night. And then the Tuesday sitting, I'm not going to publish this video till Wednesday because I'm putting up a Tuesday sitting, and the Tuesday sitting is phenomenal. And so there's everything's next level. So it's taken 2 years for this thing to become where the gatherings are, at least in terms of this gathering. And I'm looking forward to the next ones, in April 30th and then July 24th and these things. And it's, this just a better situation. Certainly it's also things are going on in the world. It's tumultuous and it's, upheavals and things. And it's supposed to get worse with all that. And when that gets worse, the gatherings will get better. When there's chaos like that and people are unsettled, the gatherings get better. I was unsettled going into this thing myself, and so really needing a boost, really needing, I went through a lot of cleaning ahead of the gathering, so, we'll see how the rest of these ones go. But I can say, for this one, definitely feels like, and, I hope I remember it, because I don't, there's been so much of a mess after Chargy passed away. I hope this one stands out, and I can remember that this happened like I'm saying it did. And so it's, but hopefully they'll continue this way. Each of these gatherings will be, it's just how you feel afterwards. There's been some kind of work that was taking place, and there's, you can feel that there's something, even if you don't know exactly what it is, your condition and the way you leave the gathering, and it's just like you've gone into the spirit world and you've come out and you're like transformed in some way. And there's been, big changes to your spiritual condition. And just trips to India were like that too, right? All these things. When Chargy would come to America or trips to India, not just these big gatherings, which is, the only thing that we have now. And so, I felt some transformation. I've had some great moments in the past 2 years as well. And getting the Preceptor book, and there's been some advancement with all that. So I think all those things are, it's been getting better, which is, I'm happy to, have that experience. And so I don't think there's much more to say about it other than, I feel great that there's finally, there's some return to the way it was before. There's something could have been lost forever, like the whole, as for now, it still exists. Like I know from my personal experience, the miracle, I don't know what you want to call it. Miracle isn't the right word because it's not material transformation, although that can be part of it. But, the excellence of the Sajmark system still exists. The vibrance, the dynamic nature of the system, it still exists, even with Daji running into the ground and all these people participating in one way or another. Anyways, very happy with it. Like I said, I'll just, I guess I include this voiceover in my all my videos, the video I'm putting up today. And, it's good. It's a positive thing. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.